Hello and welcome to Film Slam Stream's post-film conversation for Walkout. My name is Eric Siler, and I'm an instructor of film, media arts, and communications, as well as moderator for this conversation. We're very pleased to be joined by the director of Walkout, Scott Michels. Scott is a LA-based journalist and documentary producer. His work has appeared in the New York Times, The New Yorker, PBS, Vice, and ABC, and has been nominated for an Emmy and won the Edward R. Murrow Telly Webby and other awards as well too. And he's joining us from New York, in which he's there, in which this film is up for an Emmy award. So congratulations on the nomination, Scott, and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. So what are your chances? You think you're going to win?
No, don't jinx it.
No, no, not jinxing. I'm just adding to the excitement of this wonderful, well-made educational film. Uh, as I was telling you before we started, I wasn't aware of this walkout and what happened in in the late 1960s. So tell us how you came about to learn about this story and why did you decide to make a documentary on it?
Well, I grew up in LA, and actually, my stepmom went to one of the high schools that was involved in the walkout, though she wasn't a participant. So I had heard about it a long time ago, and as you said, it seemed like a story that, it's historically important in terms of the origin of a social movement, but one that is a little bit lost to history. I think a lot of people don't know about it. It doesn't get that much attention. And I just found the people that we interviewed to be quite compelling as storytellers and characters.
So how did you go about finding the people?
I mean, there have been some academic work about this. So there have been books and things like that. And so I was able to, some of the people who led the walkouts went on to become quite prominent, either as filmmakers or as activists. So some of them are still, out in the public eye, and it wasn't that hard to find them. And then, as often happens, once you talk to one person, then they lead you to three more, and they lead you to three more, and eventually we narrowed it down to the five or so people who were in the film.
Okay, so let's talk about the process. You were able to identify some subjects for the film. Tell us about the process of putting it together. Obviously, you went out and interviewed the subjects, and you gathered footage. What order did this come in, and how this actually developed into the story that you told us?
Yeah, I mean, we did sort of both at the same time. So we filmed interviews with, we had a lot of sort of phone conversations and, initial research, and then we filmed interviews. And it was quite a challenge to get the footage. Some of the stuff that we found, there were people who were there at the walkouts who filmed it for themselves. Some of them were film students at the time, and miraculously, they kept their footage from 50 some years ago, which we were able to get. And then there are a couple archives in California, Cal State LA and University of Santa Barbara, who have, quite a few documents and photographs from some of those people.
Wow, how fortunate to come across those students that actually filmed it. That just energized you more, I'm sure,
Yeah.
in making this documentary. How long did you spend working on this?
It probably took a couple months, I would say maybe 3+ months. The edit was about 6 weeks, so that includes, including fact checking and legal review and, finishing and all of that. And then probably another 6 weeks to 8 weeks to sort of do the research and track everybody down and film it.
Okay, so in telling the story, did you have the outcome in mind when you approached this project, knowing that you want to find some subjects, get some footage, and just bring awareness to this? Or did you want this documentary to take its own shape?
I mean, we had an idea, right, that we
Mhm.
wanted to sort of shed light on as sort of an initial idea, but then I think, you have to let the film take its own shape based on the material that you get, the archival and what's said in the interviews. And, obviously you don't want to walk in with a preconceived notion of what your film is. You have to be open to what people tell you and to sort of changing your mind about the importance of what happened.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So when you put together a piece like this in such a short amount of time, there isn't much room, I guess, to leave things out. Did you leave anything out of the film that you think it back, oh, maybe I could have put that in, or were you pleased with the final product?
Yeah, no, there were a lot of things actually that I would have loved to put in. Just, a lot of it's just more details of the stories of the people we interviewed. Some of them, for example, after the walkouts, got arrested again on what turned out to be sort of trumped up charges, where they were essentially framed by an undercover officer. And even in the walkout trial after the arrest there's a whole sort of backstory there, and they hired this very sort of famous, sort of flamboyant and lawyer to help them. So there were a lot of stories and details that I would have loved to include.
So doing the story now and looking back and what happened in the 60s and looking at what's going on today, one thing I noticed, you didn't really touch a lot on immigration at all. You just want to just focus on the walkout. Did it come to your mind to maybe talk about immigration and how people in this country were receptive or not receptive to immigrants?
Yeah, we had a conversation about that. We had a number of conversations about what the ending should be, and how in depth we should get into what was happening today. I've done other stories that are about immigration, but I think we felt that, the most compelling part of the story is the walkout, is what happened then. And sort of preferred to just let it speak for itself. The themes, hopefully, the themes that we talk about in the film that were important back in the 60s, hopefully people can recognize that, many of the same issues are still relevant today.
Absolutely, they are. And another thing that struck me with the film was just the walkout itself, how you built up the tension, how you indicated that, well, they wanted the walkout to happen, but no one's walking out. And then all of a sudden, everyone started walking out. The other schools caught on that as well, too. So it's just a nice little moment there to, build the tension to show how the walkout went viral in a sense without social media.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something we spent time thinking about and working on. And, with any story, you want to find the conflict and the drama and the tension to make it, compelling. And we had a great editor who worked with us who, he added some sort of sound effects in of clocks ticking, and I thought it was very effective.
It was along with the music as well too to build it up. Your initial screening, did you gather the subjects together or any key people together for the initial screening of this? And if so, tell us about that.
We actually didn't. I sent it to everyone and let them watch individually. The company I work for is a journalism organization, and we very rarely actually show people the film before it comes out. Um, Even though I understand the argument for letting people, have their say, especially when it's a very deeply personal film. But we run into sort of ethical issues with sort of journalism standards, and people who are participants asking to make changes or saying, they're unhappy with the way they look. In this case, everyone seemed pleased with how it turned out.
Absolutely so. You're telling on this story, recounting history and making people aware. To get to an Emmy nomination, this film has been on the festival circuit. How has the response been to the film on the festival circuit?
Yeah, it showed at a few festivals, and I think, for the most part, it's been positive. People seem, just like you said, to find the people compelling. People often say that, they had no idea that this happened, that they, knew a lot about the Black Civil Rights Movement in the 60s, but very little about this other movement. So, yeah, we've been happy with the reception that it's got.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So what's next for you? Are you working on another project right now? Or are there any plans to turn this into a feature? Feature.
I would like to expand it, and there are some of the people who were involved in the walkouts, as I said, went on to become important activists. And the movement that they started, took off over the next couple years. So we've been thinking about essentially doing a follow-up piece that would talk about kind of the way their social movement expanded and sort of branched out to tackle other issues like police brutality and the war in Vietnam, and things like that.
Okay, well, great, great. And before I let you go, students and their teachers, they've watched this documentary, they're watching this conversation right now. And after this conversation, they'll engage in further discussion about this film. What would you like them to talk about and discuss after seeing this film and seeing this conversation?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, I think, I guess a couple of things there, every group in this country, I think, has gone through, a process of fighting for their rights. And so I think that's something to consider. And then I think, just because the people who we talked to were sometimes they were 15 years old at the time, but they were able to, do something pretty remarkable. And so, I'm sure it was very difficult for them as young people. They said it was. But, I think that would be something worth discussing, what it takes to, move a cause beyond something that you're interested in the classroom to something that has a real impact in the real world, and how you could do that.
Absolutely. Good points there. And I just want to add to that, talking about courage. You have a lot of courageous people, you displayed in the film. And if students are thinking about, any injustice in the world or in their lives, it takes the courage to step forward. And your film is an inspiration for courage. And there are other ways to do things too, not just walk out, writing letters and petitions and so forth too. But your film was just one of the mechanisms that displayed courage and trying to affect change.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank
Exactly. Okay, well, good. Well, Scott, I wish you all the best. We look forward to hopefully seeing more great work from you. Do you think there's something coming out real soon we will see or?
you. I have another project that I'm expecting will be out in a couple months, probably early next year.
Okay, can you mention it or is it something?
It's about the few remaining survivors of the atomic bomb in Japan in 1945, who they were all children at the time that it happened. So it's really kind of about their sort of personal testimony.
Oh, that should be really interesting to hear about that. And I know the museum there does have some of the survivors that are around do talk. I had the fortune of visiting and that, so it'll be interesting to see a piece, um, you know, on film, documenting that event. Well, good luck with that and all your other endeavors. And hopefully next time we talk, we'll be hearing good news about the awards.
Yeah, I hope so. All
All
right,
right,
thank
thanks a
you.
lot. Scott Michels, Director of Walkout. And thank you for joining us for this important and invigorating conversation. For more information about our upcoming film festival, please visit us at clevelandfilm.org. I'm Eric Siler. Thank you.